Today, we continue this exciting saga as we explore some early use cases where mobile identity has already shown a positive impact. We have 4 segments. I will start with an in-dialogue piece with 2 experts about mobile biometrics, which is ultimately needed for enabling use cases. We will then talk about its state of development, benchmarking, and outlook. The lineup today features the following contributors in order of appearance. Rahul Parthe, CTO, co-founder and chairman of TECH5. Bart-Jan Poors, director of Inclusive FinTech, Gsma. In this segment, we want to try to understand the role of biometrics in the mobile context, see what options are available, how mature is the technology, and how effective are they in the priority use cases. To help us explore these 2 matters, we have Rahul Parthe from TECH5 and Bart-Jan Poors from Gsma. So welcome, gentlemen, to this segment, and thank you for being with us. I want to do a little bit of scene setting first by asking Bart-Jan to kick us off. Why biometrics in mobile?
Wow, very interesting question, Dr. Atik. Let me start by thanking you and the wider ID4Africa team, of course, for having me on this very exciting livecast. And maybe just to set the stage for those maybe less familiar with the Gsma. The Gsma is the Global Industry Association on behalf of mobile operators in the wider mobile industry worldwide. So we're proud to count around 750 mobile operators and a multitude of wider industry players amongst our members. And in particular, I work for the foundation of the Gsma, Mobile for Development, which aims to drive innovation in digital technology to reduce inequalities in our world, with a focus on low and middle income countries, including in Africa. But to come to your question, I think that starts with the widely known observation that more than 1 billion people in the world lack a form of legal identification, and actually almost half of these are living in sub-Saharan Africa. So that lack of identification really prevents people from accessing life-enhancing digital and financial services. And we believe there is a clear role for biometrics to bridge this gap in emerging markets, if meeting the local context needs. So for instance, if attainable at low affordability, and also compatible with low-end technology to meet the local needs. And this creates a tremendous opportunity for digital and financial inclusion, and places mobile devices really at the heart of reducing existing barriers. And the role of mobile really is a key enabler here. Identity infrastructure can typically be investment heavy, rollout is complex, and so on. But mobile phones really have a very deep penetration level across the African continent, and typically even so amongst underserved user groups. So mobile devices and mobile biometrics really offer a huge opportunity to help lift identity barriers for people. And this holds both for foundational IDs, so really primary ID documentation, often, of course, under regulation of governments. And it also holds for more functional IDs, so digital identities that are delegated identities based on a foundational ID that help, for instance, improve service operation and customer experience for users. It can also help provide additional security and 2-factor authentication. So and so on. There's really a multifold of possibilities in this space, and opportunity for mobile biometrics.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you with the issue of sort of responsible use of biometrics, etc. But granted, we're going to proceed on the assumption that mobile biometrics are needed to enable use cases on a mobile platform. So as you've just mentioned. However, I want to sort of bring in Rahul into this conversation. In fact, mobile biometrics are not simple. I mean, for many, many years, we've had challenges in terms of their ability to function on standard off-the-shelf hardware, and in terms of the accuracy and the limitations. Rahul, you are one of the pioneers. I know you go back, you worked with me many, many years. You were one of the wizards, young wizards, who started on the India project on algorithms, etc. So welcome back. I wanted to understand from you, how do you see the challenges, technical challenges of mobile biometrics, and why are they challenging? And then we're going to talk about how much progress have people such as yourself and other algorithmic developers have advanced the state of the art.
Thank you, Joseph. So we all understand that there is a deep penetration of mobile devices, and on the one hand, we have these awesome computing devices which have really state-of-the-art integrated camera systems, computing power, and really good interfaces. But then there is also a lot of variety of devices that are out there. So the challenge has been is to make sure that all biometric modalities can work with these devices that are out there. And when you talk about the lower tier of these devices, they certainly lack some compliances with the standards, that the like Android, for example. Now that said, facial recognition has seen massive growth, and that's for one simple reason is the ease of use. Whereas fingerprints, although it has been the most popular biometrics from the old ages of biometrics, was always seen as something that could be done with mobile biometrics or mobile phones specifically, and has seen challenges because of the optics and the camera systems and the physical challenges of 3D surface poses, when you're trying to capture that biometric. Now, with the evolution of technology, and we'll come to that, there's been a significant effort in trying to solve that problem. And we are pretty confident now that there are solutions out there that can meet the demand, when it comes to capturing fingerprints using mobile phones.
So are you saying that you are going to enter a world where we will not need an external fingerprint scanner in order to do fingerprinting on mobile phones?
Yes, I'm very confident. And when it's not only about verification, but also for enrollments, there's it's not too far that we'll see heavy usage of mobile phones when it comes to capturing fingerprints.
Okay, you realize that this statement that you're making is an untrivial statement. And so if true, it has a very big domino effect, a major impact on how enrollment campaigns can work, and how will they procure devices and instruments. And so government agencies that are watching this episode are wondering, how can I be comfortable with that I do have enough accuracy that I could build a national identity database having captured fingerprints using mobile phones only. Do you have any studies in the lab, or can you point us any studies that done by independent body that will corroborate that?
Very interesting question. And of course, I am aware, people will have some trust issues. And, there is one validation that I would say is that NIST itself is taking a lot of interest in building these tools. Let me share something that we have when it comes to, if you see, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what you're looking at is a fingerprint that is captured using a mobile phone. On the left is something with a default filtering techniques, but on the right is something that has been using AI and domain knowledge that fingerprint software developers like us, or algorithm developers like have it. And you can see now that the fingerprint that is captured on the left is a contactless finger, and on the right is a contact with the touch. It's pretty much similar. But this is the final statement I would make, is that NIST has issued this tool called NFRAC, and it has been envisioned as the certification tool. So what NIST will eventually do is allow technology developers to take this their own captures, self-assess, and submit these reports in the direction of literally doing an FBI Appendix F like a certification process. This just shows that how seriously NIST is taking, NIST, is taking the efforts to believe in this technology and certify it. And they're also been directed by the FBI, basically saying that, finally, who will certify is a different question, but asking them to take the efforts into building such tools. And I've also heard that FBI may start accepting fingerprints captured using mobile devices by the end of the year for performing searches against the FBI database. And
keep going. The NFRAC report, is that issued, or this is you use your tool to assess?
So this NFRAC tool is issued by NIST, is available for participants, after signing some forms. So basically, they give you this tool for privacy reasons. They do not want your fingerprints sent back to them. So you run your evaluations, and then you will send these reports, and they will come back and say, eventually that the capture technology you have is certified to meet certain standards. If you can see, again, there'll be a lot of parameters that will be listed below that talk about, how good is the matching score, how many minutiae you can overlap, and certain factors that will be helping you to build confidence in the capture technology.
Okay.
In order to, so of course there is a lack of real large-scale, evaluations that are happening out there. But we as a company and technology developers, we keep our ongoing efforts. And I have some curves accuracy curves to show you. What we did is we took 45 different individuals and captured their fingerprints, all 10 fingerprints on 26 different devices and models, just to see how better the coverage is. These are the accuracy numbers. They can be better represented by looking at this graph. And what you can see is that with a single finger, if you look at it, 1 in 10,000, the error rates are pretty high, but this is pretty similar to a touch sensor, contact sensor. But as soon as you start using only slaps or all 10 fingers, the error rates basically go to, less than 1% or 0.1%. So you can imagine that near zero error rates can be achieved using a 10-finger capture, which would be typical for your civil registration system.
So basically, the accuracy with the slaps becomes very, with an optical imager from the phone itself, becomes very practical.
Indeed, yeah, and you can look also from the user's perspective. It's very frictionless. It's pretty straightforward. Like selfie was second nature to human beings, slap captures would become. Of course, when you have operator-driven capture sessions, it will be really great.
Even better. So give some thought to what programs have become, are adopting this for either enrollment or for authentication. I'm going to come back to you, but I want to go back to Bart John for a second. So, Bart, you see that there is a trend where we are heading into a world where the mobile phone is not just a connection device. It's becoming a very valuable capture device. It captures biometrics. We know that it captures the face. That's already given for granted. We know it captures the voice because it can record, it can communicate with voice. But the issue related to the capture of the fingerprint and making it almost equivalent to contact fingerprints, and plus, who knows, we'll talk about iris, mobile iris. But at the end of the day, a mobile phone is becoming a multimodal biometric capture device. Should we have any concerns about that? I know some humanitarian organizations are raising the alarm bells, saying we should be careful about mobile phones being used for biometrics. Are there any issues that we should be worried about?
Well, I think this is a very complex theme, of course, in general. What we think is extremely important to make sure that the biometric solutions that we address in the context of Africa are also meeting the needs of the African context. A lot of the technologies in biometrics evidently evolved in more developed markets, and those learnings can definitely be leveraged, bringing those technologies to Africa, but not as a one-on-one copy-paste. So if we look at that, I think the first thing to note is that there are several components to that. So you're thinking, of course, right away about particular user behavior or digital literacy, amongst others. But I think there's two specific ones that need to be addressed if you bring biometrics to the African continent. One is the affordability of investments, because a lot of the businesses are running on low margin business models. And another thing really, and I think this is also where you're going, is compatibility with user equipment. Not everyone will be in the possession of an iPhone 13. So it has to be compatible with low or lower end devices as well. And that's really the challenge at hand, to see how those different modalities that you mentioned, face recognition, fingerprint recognition, voice recognition, can be carried over to that context of these type of constraints and those type of devices. And that's what we've been looking at as well.
Now, I'll come back to you on that. Rahul, it seems that on a low-end infrastructure, a single biometric may be vulnerable, may not be as robust. But if you allow me to capture, as you mentioned, the entire slab set, then just or augment that with the face, even if the image quality is not as good as you would be in a high-end device, are we achieving the good enough? Are we reaching the good enough in a context such as the real world, in hard conditions? Do you think mobile phones are achieving good enough and therefore they're becoming game changer for mobile biometrics?
Yeah, so as you saw that, when I was displaying those slides, there were 26 different models that were included in the test. And our, starting principle is that you have to, make sure that at least 80% of the market is covered, which means, we're starting with medium range to high-end phones. And as you said, that, capturing multiple biometrics modalities always solves the problem. And that said, there is also, this problem has to be solved from two ends. One is the capture side, but also you're enhancing and building new algorithms that can handle such variations, right? So there has been a significant research into neural network-based fingerprint matching algorithm, to be specific. As you have seen that what AI has done to face is also doing to fingerprints. So when you're still trying to bridge the legacy fingerprints to mobile captures, there is a little bit of friction there. But when you start to go contactless to contactless or using new AI-based matching, I think the problem is definitely solved.
So you basically think this is the AI revolution that's now we're seeing its impact in multimodal biometrics, making mobile viable.
Indeed.
Okay, hold on to that. I want to come back to you. Barja, obviously your organization does not do research in algorithms for mobile biometrics, but obviously with the plethora of players in the field and the devices and the platforms, there needs to be some sort of benchmarking, some sort of mechanism and platform that allows your customers to start exploring these wonderful innovations without having to only rely on what vendors are claiming, etc. So what is GSMA doing regarding biometrics in the mobile context?
Indeed, of course, as an industry association, Gsma is not providing direct solutions or technologies to the industry itself. We have the role as an enabler to bring the industries together, supply and demands, service providers and technology providers. And as such, we have 2.5 years ago launched the Gsma Inclusive Tech Lab, which is a facility really for and by the industry, where players can work together on innovations that help drive digital inclusion and specifically financial inclusion in the space of mobile money, evidently such a key financial service across the African continent. And what we've been doing in that space when it comes to biometrics is that we've built a demo platform, which we call Biometrics for All, which really provides a multimodal biometric showcase for enabling digital service providers to test different biometric solutions for different use cases in emerging markets, tapping into those different modalities of face, fingerprint, and voice, all using a safe environment. Let me leave it for here at this moment in time.
Do you have an overview visual that could illustrate what the BLL does?
Yes, I can share more about that, of course. Let me pull it out for you.
Yes, very quickly.
That should be
so this is BLL. You've got the link on the top, so anybody who wants to join. This is open to only your association members or anybody?
No, it's absolutely open source for anyone to tap into and make use of. And really what it aims to do is that it provides digital service providers with a facility to test those various biometric modalities and different use cases they're interested in, which can be simulated within this BALL biometrics for all environments. So what we really want to achieve is to reduce the challenges with adopting biometrics, allowing a better understanding of which kind of biometrics and what type of solution would fit in their specific business purpose.
Okay, that's great. I mean, so basically, this is going to be a knowledge lab. At the end of the day, hopefully, you will develop enough tracks and knowledge that you could counsel some of the your customers about what works and what doesn't work in certain use case scenarios.
Yes. It is indeed a knowledge lab, so we provide all sorts of knowledge products around it as well, but it goes beyond. It's really technology that we provide, open source assets that can be taken by any service provider to their benefit and adjusted. And if there's support needed from us to adjust that to their specific purpose, we are available to support that.
Excellent. Come back. The audience, anybody wants to join Rahul and Barjan, raise your hand or just step up, and we can talk about basically biometrics. I want to continue with Rahul. Rahul, have you been also exploring mobile iris, or you don't see demand for mobile iris? Actually, Barjan, could you stop sharing your screen, please? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so indeed, yeah. So we as an organization are trying to solve two problems, right? The last mile problem, which is capture of biometrics and also verifiable credential that can be held in an offline manner. And along with the face, finger, and voice, we are definitely researching into iris. And the challenge is going to be, how do you make iris images from an color camera compatible with a near infrared? And again, we're going to trust the power of AI or machine learning, and we're going to spend our efforts into that direction. I personally would believe that, or want to believe that it can solve the one-to-one problem. For one-to-N, we will still have to wait till the whole ecosystem evolves, where there will be some kind of near infrared light sources that can be attached on the device. So I hope by the end of the year we'll have some news on that approach.
Good, excellent. So we've got somebody from the community who stepped up to the plate. Please introduce yourself and explain who you're with and where you're from, and state your purpose.
Hi, my name is Hans Marschalek. I'm from New York City. My company is called Bandwagon. It's a travel app. My question to the panel is, when we collect multimodal biometrics in underdeveloped countries, who is going to store those? Since it doesn't have the particular model of Apple, which is like the on the device, and how do we keep those type of things safe, since only one, once you have it forever. I'm thinking specifically to the issues of, intergenerational violence inside Africa, like Rwanda, where different tribes are fighting each other because they knew of the biometric or the tribe affiliations, and how do we step and prevent that? Thank you.
So basically, Rahul and Bart, when you're talking about biometrics collection, where will that biometrics go? Will that biometrics go into a database? So this is for the enrollment, but for the authentication, what are the models? Maybe that would be a chance for you to also talk about offline.
So as you mentioned, yeah, capture is only the part, it's part of an ecosystem. It's a registration system, and you'll take care of registration, encryption, and all that stuff. But when it comes to authentication, where you want to do offline verification, we're working on technologies that are basically more around the decentralized identity. So wherever there is a lack of digital skills and digital infrastructures, we are promoting technologies and building technologies that can work offline, but at the without compromising the privacy and security aspect. What does that mean is that anything that needs to be verified by a authorized officer will need consent, either in the form of biometric password or a input that somebody can provide, like a passcode or something. That way, there's nobody that can actually get to your data unless you consent for it, right? And when you do it decentralized, there is no honeypot, so there is no one database that somebody can use to commit atrocities. So this is something that we are working on. It's already a solution that's out there, and it's proving its benefits when it's working in the offline manner.
Okay, so you can actually carry your own biometric, maybe in a QR code and a 2D barcode or something, and that would be encoded and secure, and you don't need it to be in a database, right?
Exactly. It's something that you can print or show it on a mobile phone. Anybody who has the authority to verify it can read it using a smartphone, and on the spot you can do one-to-one verification.
Okay, excellent. Mamadou Kuyate, can you please state who you're with and your purpose? Welcome. Please unmute yourself.
Ok, je pense que c'est ouvert. Et
oui,
moi, je suis un responsable du fichier électoral au niveau de la CENI guinéenne. Je suis le chef de service administratif et technique au niveau du fichier électoral.
Attendez,
ma question à ce niveau est que est-ce que vous avez un peu pensé oui.
Mamadou, je vais expliquer que this gentleman is in charge of the electoral database in Guinea. Est-ce que vous pouvez poser votre question? Yes. Est-ce que vous pouvez? Oui, on vous attend. Est-ce que vous pouvez poser votre question lentement, comme ça je peux traduire. Oui.
Ma question est que si ce que vient d'être expliqué par rapport au réseau mobile, est-ce que vous avez pensé aux personnes inalphabètes au niveau de l'Afrique? Parce que s'il s'agit de s'identifier, or c'est une question d'inclusion. Est-ce que les personnes inalphabètes peuvent se retrouver pour qu'ils puissent, que là, c'est une question qui est importante chez moi ici, où vous pouvez voir qu'il y a à peu près 50% de la population qui est inalphabète. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire par rapport à cette situation? Et ça, c'est ma première question. La deuxième question, ceux qui n'ont pas d'appareil performant, ceux qui n'ont pas de système mobile performant, tels que les iPhones ou les Samsung puissants qui peuvent mieux récolter ces données. Comment peut-il faire pour réellement s'identifier? Là, je pense que c'est des soucis que moi j'ai.
Okay, merci, Mamadou. Basically, the question comes to building reliance on biometrics on mobile phones requires that the person is at least illiterate and also has a highly performant mobile phone. So what is being done to test the extent of inclusion? How do we build solutions that allow illiterate people to use them and also people who don't have a high-end phone?
May I take that one, Dr. Atik?
Yes.
I find it a very relevant question, and that's actually also the context that we address within the work I just presented, Biometrics for All, which is really aiming to include people, all people, into digital infrastructures by lifting those identity barriers. So really looking at how biometrics can help that in the local context. So the work that we do, and I can give some examples, is really based on work that we do in collaboration with partners in markets. For instance, work that we've done with a major operator providing mobile money services in Pakistan, Telenor, as well as recent work that we've done in Western Africa with one of the leading mobile money providers and mobile operators. So really, the platform that we've built is very modular and flexible in terms of modalities, in terms of use cases, in terms of suppliers behind it. And so it can be tuned and tweaked to the needs of those partners. And they really understand the context of their markets and also understand exactly those barriers that you mentioned, Mohamedou, in terms of digital literacy. One of the voice modalities, for instance, that has sparked particular interest by both these players in Pakistan and Western Africa is around voice, because voice is very intuitive and can be addressed to apply to many types of use cases. So be it for providing a secondary factor of authentication on top of PIN, or be it for providing a means to do, let's say, low-end security operations like resetting a PIN, or also be it for doing high-end security operations like authorizing transactions at the merchant location. So all these type of examples we've actually contextualized and built in practice for those partners to really experience what that would look like for their end users with the experience sets that you indicate, Mohamedou.
Okay, very good. Actually, Rahul, we're running out of time. I want to come back to you. Your fingerprint matching is very intriguing, because if it becomes a trend that everybody will use to capture fingerprints on large-scale enrollments, this has a huge impact. Are there any countries now that have begun using mobile fingerprints captured by a fingerprint camera to do enrollment, or not yet?
No, not enrollment yet, because as I said, there is a little bit of a trust that has to be built, and
right.
When NIST and everybody starts to publish these reports, there will be more trust. There has been a lot of traction in authentication and hitting national databases in many countries, but we have now serious engagements with some countries where they are considering this for registration purposes.
Do you care to make a prediction? Do you think how long will it take before countries start enrolling people on mobile phones without scanners?
If things go as planned, by the end of this year, you'll see a very large program using mobile fingerprints to capture and deduplicate. And we're talking about tens of millions of people. It's a very big program.
Okay, so I think this is a major development, and you've heard it here at ID4Africa Livecast. Rahul, if this is the case, we're going to bring you back, and you're going to share with us the details of that program. Barjan, you and your Biometrics for All laboratories will be validating that these are actually real game changers that are going to open wide the enrollment and the use cases for on mobile. So we ran out of time. I want to thank you both for your wonderful presence with me and for the insightful conversations. So thank you again, and we'll hope to see you back again very soon.